Welcome to another show. I'm going to call this Targeted Agenda. And there is an agenda for the targeted individual. It's to drive you crazy. It's to make you dysfunctional. It's to gaslight you. It's to get you fighting with each other. We're going to talk about the emotions, about processing the information properly. New targeted individuals are very vulnerable. I think it happens to all targets. They're getting hit from all sides. They're dealing with street theater, workplace harassment, break-ins, all kinds of things that they had never experienced in their life before, or at least at that intensity. And the temptations that go along with that. We're going to talk about psychiatric medication, the psychiatric agenda. We're going to talk about a little bit of things that involve the end time events. We're going to touch on a lot of different things. I'm kind of going to jump around. But it's very important that targeted individuals process information correctly, okay? They want you fixated on this stuff. They want the new targeted individual to be sensitized to everything. They want you to process information in a personal way, and new targeted individuals are very vulnerable to that because they're getting hit with a lot of street theater. They're getting hit from a lot of different angles. There's a lot of different stuff going on. They got the workplace harassment, the street theater, the gaslighting, the break-ins. Everything is about them. Right? And the new target individual doesn't even know what's going on. And their sense of alertness has been heightened to a point where it's ridiculous. Right? They're looking for it everywhere. They don't know what's going to happen. All they know is they feel like they're in a damn Hollywood movie or something, right? And it just fuels the fire. And then the gaslighting begins, right? Or the methods change. Because the new targeted individual is going to process information in a personal way. Somebody might start laughing or whatever, and they don't realize that they're looking around, and that's just going to cause people to look at them or whatever is happening, or they get called out by a perp or something.
How goes the battle? Everything working out for you?
Or they'll jerk your chain or whatever, and you know the new targeted individual is frustrated to the point where they're ready to fight. They're ready to attack. They're on the defensive. They're like an animal in a corner, you know. And then they're going to get accused, right? And it fits right along with the criteria in psychiatry. Oh, you're having a persecutory delusion, right? You're having a delusion of grandeur. You're in a psychosis. You're schizophrenic. You're paranoid. What do you mean everybody's after you? What do you mean all these things are happening? It's all about you. Or maybe you're just your own problem, right? And that's what they want, though. They want you to be your own problem. And it does happen to new targets. A lot of times they will start reading into stuff, or they'll start calling people out or attacking people. I've seen it in videos. They get sensitized and they're attacking someone, and I guarantee the person they're after has no idea what the hell's their problem, right? And I've seen it. I'm not gonna mention any names, but I've seen them. And then I've seen the individuals get arrested and disappear. There's a couple of them right now that are in jail, right? Because they just went over the top, right? It doesn't, that's the thing about this whole scenario that you're in. It doesn't matter whether you're right or not, okay? That's the bait, okay, guys? You got to remember that. That's the bait. It's juicy. It's being dangled in front of you, and the temptation to show everybody how right you are is there, and you don't want to bite. You don't want to give in to that altercation when your emotions are high and you're dealing with workplace harassment. You do not want to make decisions or do high-stakes gambling when you're drunk. Why? Because you're not in your right mind. And when you're emotional, it's the same way. Okay? And even more so, a lot of times targeted individuals will be so stressed out they'll get on some type of medication or whatever. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Because, they're having trouble sleeping or relaxing or whatever. And then you've got all the stuff going on around the targeted individual. Maybe you should go see a doctor, or they'll try to get help. And of course, there's a lot of different ways that the target's mind is messed up at that point, right? They may think that everybody in their, community knows about it. They may assume that all the police in their county know or something. They may assume that people are reading their mind. They may assume a lot of things, and this is going to play into it. Then they may end up talking to a doctor at an appointment or having to deal with the police. Some of that stuff is going to come out, and they're just going to look nuttier than a fruitcake, right? A lot of those things work that way. And then what happens? Well, yeah, the person is going to be kind, especially if it's somebody in psychiatry or whatever, a counselor, and they're going to probably give you some type of medication to calm down, or you might get in an altercation or something like that and end up in jail. And they ask you what's going on, you tell them, and they're going to at the very least probably give you some medication. But the point is that medication is not really healing you. When people enter into the psychopharmacological realm, right, when you're taking antidepressant drugs or serotonin drugs or whatever, you're not fixing a chemical imbalance. Okay, the people, and they've done blood tests on people before. The people who claim to be depressed, and I'm not saying that doesn't exist, and the people who are normal, the serotonin levels are no different. Okay, a lot of junk science involved in this whole thing. Big pharma wants to sell their products. And, psychiatry has infiltrated the physician's office. It's infiltrated the emergency room. It's infiltrated, just the physician side of this whole thing. It's internal medicine has become completely invaded by all this stuff. And it's junk science. So what happens to people? Their brains are not functioning properly. So, if you're in that place where you're lucky enough to try some meds or something, well, just, add to, it's just another level to MK Ultra at that point. And there is an agenda along with that too. It's MK Ultra, Operation Paperclip, and everything combined. It's a Nazi agenda. Okay. They want total control. They want to make money, and they want to convince everybody. It's like gaslighting on a mass scale. Oh, are you sure you're not ill? You've got a mental condition here. Everybody fits the criteria in one form or another that they've got some type of psychological disorder. It's like everybody is, preloaded and gaslighted to believe that you might not be perceiving things correctly. So you think the government is pushing out propaganda? You mean you really believe there's fake news? You think there's a communist agenda? You believe in God, the devil? What? Are you sure you're feeling okay? Why don't you take this questionnaire test? And you got to do that anyway. You got to take a psychological evaluation every time you go to the doctor now. Now, don't mistake what I'm saying. I'm not suggesting that if you're on medication that you should just stop taking it. I'm not saying you can't go to a doctor and get something for anxiety or depression or insomnia. I'm just saying that when you step back and look at this whole picture, when you look at the big picture, there's an agenda going on, and you can see that. It's actually pretty scary when you look at all the facets that are involved in this. Okay. Because total control is something that, we're talking about turnkey totalitarianism right at the door. And targeted individuals are not the only ones who are being assaulted. As I said, I was going to mention end times. And the Christian community is under attack. There's a lot of false stuff that's flying at Christians, and it's challenging how they process information. The idea that abortion is Molech worship. Okay, that's not true. You can call it immoral. You can call it a lot of things. But you can't say that it's worshiping a pagan deity. Okay, that's not what's happening. Okay, I'm pro-life, but that's not it. The whole idea that America is becoming possessed, right? That it was exorcised, and now the gods are coming back, right? The demons are back. Well, no, that's not really what's going on. What's going on is there's judgment, okay? And the Bible's very clear, and it talks about this in Psalm 82, because there is stuff like that. There is principalities and powers, okay? Absolutely. There's demonic stuff going on. But it's not that our nation has become possessed and it was exorcised, and now, we're being corporately judged like Israel or something like that. That's not biblical. Okay, there are things going on, but these things are not true. And abortion is not worshiping Molech. Okay, people are not sacrificing their children to a false god. Okay, just like the mark of the beast was not the vaccine. Right? You call that conflation, the false propositions, and they're being introduced. People have to process information correctly. There's the whole idea that Christians can be possessed by demons or that they're under generational curses. No, that's not in the Bible. Okay, you have to have scriptural authority, right? And now people are giving into this stuff, right? And what's going to happen to a girl or something that regrets an abortion or whatever? Do you think the kingdom of darkness is going to use that? Right? Do you think that they're going to make her feel guilty or condemn that individual? Of course they're going to. And now we're just going to add something else to it. Now they're susceptible to possession. Even though they're saved, even though I asked Jesus Christ to forgive their sins, even though, they've repented or whatever, well, no, there might be something attached, right? You might need to be delivered. You got these deliverance ministries where now there's a demon. There's something hidden that only one of these gurus can deliver you from, and we've got to call it out. Maybe your grandpa was involved with Freemasonry, or your grandma was in Rosicrucianism or Wicca, and there's a relic up in the attic, and you didn't know about it. The demons are getting in, right? They're coming for you. No, it's not biblical, and I'm not saying people can't be attacked. They absolutely can be. It's not because of that. Okay, and if you're in Christ, you're not under the law. You are not under any kind of generational curse or hidden thing. Well, I've seen people get delivered. No, I don't care what you've seen. And if someone says they're saved and they end up flopping around on the ground and going into a seizure and someone casts a demon on them, obviously that wasn't true. That's the first thing you should pop into your head. You weren't saved. Okay, you were not indwelt by the Holy Spirit. You were not born again. Okay, it's time to start over. Okay, it's time to get that going. But it wasn't the case. What about oppression? A lot of those things can mimic possession. So you have a misperception. But I think there's a more twisted agenda beyond that. If they're just misperceiving things, they're trying to make money. It's very sensationalistic. It's a hot topic. It's clickbait. And now the whole idea that the Christians can be possessed or they're under generational curses is false. The idea that the New World Order is the Antichrist beast system, that's not true either. Okay, I've put a lot of hours studying this stuff. If it is, if I'm wrong, it should be pretty obvious, right? And people have become sensationalistic. What's the Bible teach about these things? What's the Bible teach about the Antichrist? Who is he? The man of lawlessness. Who's the beast? Is Putin the Antichrist? No. That's another mistranslation, right? Rosh is not talking about Russia. Okay. There's a lot of stuff that's just sensationalistic out there, and people don't know what's going on. And if they fight against this oppressive government that we have, the New World Order, which is it's about wealth, power, manipulation. Okay, it's evil, but it's not the Antichrist beast system. It's not the kingdom of the Antichrist at all. The Bible's pretty clear about that. People are misperceiving things, and if they fight back against the government, they turn into political activists, which the Bible doesn't condone that. Paul was not going to the people that he was ministering to and telling them to fight Rome or whatever. And when you get into the scriptures to talk about how you have to leave room for God's wrath, that's exactly what Paul was addressing, because a lot of the Christians were getting thrown to the beasts in the Colosseums. They were being used in the games, right? The Roman games. They were being persecuted. They were being tortured, and a lot of the Christians were angry, right? And he's like, don't try to retaliate. Leave room for God's wrath. And this whole idea that the New World Order is the Antichrist has got people becoming radical. And that's what they want. It's an agenda. It's another agenda. What are they going to do? They're going to use it to make Christians look crazy, right? They're gonna use it to discredit the Christian community and to pass more laws, and it's gonna work in their favor. What happened to the people that were talking about the mark of the beast and the vaccine? All right, they're not saying anything anymore, are they? But I got some nasty comments. I had all kinds of people pushing against me, and oh no, you don't have any idea. Here it is. It's the Antichrist. It's the mark. No, the mark of the beast has to do with worship. Okay, it has to do with worship of a false god in a religious system, not just an economic system. It's not just economic coercion. There's an agenda to make Christians look crazy. I'm serious, just like targeted individuals. Disinformation. What about the pre-tribulation rapture? Same thing. And people are fighting each other over it. Christians are fighting. They're hostile towards each other. Gee, you think the kingdom of darkness got anything to do with that? Huh? What do we have in Revelations 20? We have a resurrection. One resurrection before the millennium. Okay, that's a pretty hard logistical impossibility for the pre-tribulation rapture doctrine, because you have to have two, right? What about the people that died during the tribulation period that are martyred, obviously, in the book of Revelations? What's going to happen to them when Jesus touches down after this so-called 7-year party? All right, well, they're going to have to be resurrected, aren't they? They're going to have to be raptured. They're going to have two raptures and two resurrections. There's only one resurrection in the Bible, right? Not to mention the fact that the coming of Christ can't be secret. There's supposedly going to be this secret return, the secret rapture. People are going to be left behind, and then this delusion is going to come out, and the Antichrist is going to tell everybody aliens took him or whatever. It's not possible. What does the Bible say? As lightning flashes from east to west, so shall be the coming of Christ. But it's actually a bad translation, because that's talking about light shining from east to west. The sun comes up in the east and it sets in the west. Would it be possible for someone to mistake that the sun had risen? That it was morning? Nope. You're not going to get out of that one. That's another example. People look nuts. Well, yeah, but Revelation 3:10 says that no. Revelation 3:10 was to the Church of Philadelphia, and the Church of Philadelphia was the only church to escape the Ottoman Empire. And after the Caliphate was destroyed, it founded a new church, Philadelphia, in 1923. Check it out. They were the only ones to escape. It was a literal promise to the Philadelphia church. And it was kept. It was miraculous. Nobody wants to talk about that either. You know, it's all processing information incorrectly. All right, self-centered. That's for me. That's a letter for me. No, it's not. It could apply to you in certain ways, but it was not written to you. Okay, that was to the Church of Philadelphia, and they escaped. There was an open door for them. Really happened. It's historical. The way we process information is everything, right? That's what sensitization is about. It's not just that the perps, that the gang stalkers want you to know that they're attacking you. They just, I want to yank your chain in front of a group of people. Nobody's going to know but you. Yeah, that's part of it. But the agenda is really to get you looking into things that have nothing to do with you, right? To get you processing information incorrectly to the point where you're reading into things. And now you're going to question your own perception. You're going to wonder if you're insane, right? You're going to sit around, I don't know, maybe I have lost my mind. No, you're experiencing the effects of harassment. You're experiencing the effects of sensitization. Okay? They want you to wonder if you're nuts. They want you to become dysfunctional to the point where you're reading into everything and looking for this stuff everywhere and, blabbering like some kind of lunatic, dysfunctional, isolated, homeless, and broke. That's what they want. You can't give it to them. You have to process information correctly. And, when targeted individuals are attacked, there's a motive behind all this stuff, right? They want you reading into things. They want you scared of everything. They want you emotional. They want you trying to figure these things out and trying to solve problems that are completely out of your control. And then you get desperate, right? And you start fighting each other. Processing information correctly, or even ignoring a lot of the stuff that's coming at you, is crucial to survive the attack that you're under. Okay? realizing the motive. Be good to yourselves. Be safe.